Hello, everybody. Catchy1383 with Catchy Gaming, and I'm a couple days late on this one, mainly because my job keeps me from recording right now. And I will admit, I was playing some games with my youngest brother. We were playing Ready or Not, but that has nothing to do with this. So, Nintendo put out Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 on the Switch for Mario's 40th anniversary. And there's this like one guy when I used to actually go to Twitter on all Nintendo's like posts, he'd be like, "No one cares. Release Mario Galaxy 2. Now you're happy, dude. You can stop. No one cared to begin with. Crazy bastard." So, anyways, I'm gonna do my thing where I do a version versus version. Except this one's a little bit of a twist to it because it's version versus version versus version for Mario Galaxy, and then it's just another version versus version for Mario Galaxy 2. Because remember, for their 35th anniversary, they released Super Mario 3D All Stars, and they included Mario Galaxy on that. I was a bit hesitant to get the 40th anniversary version of this game, considering I already own it on the Wii version and the Mario 3D All Stars version. But in order to get a physical copy of Mario Galaxy 2, I had to buy Mario Galaxy 1 anyways, so Nintendo found a way to sucker me out of more money. So, first of all, the rules are I spent about 20 minutes on each version, probably a little bit more on the Wii version. After having to figure out some technical issues, mainly due to that whole entire thing where you need a sensor bar for the Wii version. And I did record this using my Wii U because it's a lot easier and it looks a lot better with the HDMI than it does with the good old red, white, and yellow cables because every adapter I have for that just makes the game look dark. So I made the plunge and transferred everything over to the Wii U to record. And yes, I know they're RCA. I was just going with the generic colors. That way people knew exactly what I was talking about. Because if I say RCA, they might not. So, after figuring out a way to get the sensor bar to work, as well as getting help from Oliver, I set off on getting started on playing the Wii version of Mario Galaxy again. Because I don't remember if I did a version versus version way back when Mario All Stars came out. Probably not, because I didn't have a way to record Mario on the 64, and probably not for Mario Sunshine on the GameCube. I don't remember. So, first of all, in terms of controls, it's fairly similar from the Switch version to the Wii version. Although I did play the Switch version initially with a controller, and I was using my Hall Effects controller, which I did not know had motion controls in it. But just like the All Star version, using a controller, like a traditional gamepad, as people like to call it, it's kind of awkward to play this game with it. Now, yes, it's a third party controller, so I don't think the motion control aspect of it was all that great. And I have played the All Star version with a regular old gamepad, and it's still really awkward to use the gamepad with the motion controls in order to move it around to collect all the little star bits there. And it just doesn't feel good to use that. So, in terms of controlling, let's say, gamepad versus Wiimote, yeah, the Wiimote actually still has a bit of a leg up in terms of that. Now, when I was gathering footage for the All Star version of the game, I switched to the Joy Cons. First time I've used the Joy Cons for the Switch 2. And honestly, they worked really, really well. I didn't have to put up a sensor. I didn't have to sit like 6 feet back in order to get the right angle and position for it. It worked really, really well. I didn't have to shake it in order to get Mario to spin, and thus cause my little reticle there to go all over the place while playing the game and trying to collect the little star bits there. I could just move it around like I wanted to and hit the spin button with a button instead of using the motion controls. It was nice. So yes, the Switch versions with the Joy-Cons have a very distinct advantage over just a regular gamepad or even the Wii Remote in this case. So win for the Switch versions of the game. And I went back and played a little bit more of the Galaxy 1 and 2 combo pack with the Joy-Cons. And when I recorded Mario Galaxy 2, I just used the Joy-Cons. I didn't even bother with the gamepad that time. Now, in terms of visuals, you could probably tell which one's which just by glancing at it. The Wii version, although depending on the size of your screen, and with me recording via the Wii U, yes, it's still a little darker, but the edges are fuzzier and everything's not quite as sharp. So I took a bit of a moment there to put together all three versions side by side, with the leftmost one being the Wii U version / Wii version, the center one being the Mario 3D All-Stars, and the one on the very far right being the 40th anniversary version of this game. It's pretty obvious that the Wii version doesn't look nearly as good as the Switch versions do. But surprisingly, the 40th anniversary version of the game versus the 3D All-Stars version of the game are actually somewhat distinct. You can actually tell that the rendering is sharper and better, and they went full screen instead of just going cinematic with the black bars. So there is actual distinction between the two different Switch versions of the exact same game, at least on a visual level, or maybe just in terms of the cinematics. We can compare the gameplay a little bit, but that's a little bit harder to sync up because I can't exactly duplicate a one-to-one movement for each of the different versions. But I think just putting them by each other would probably do well enough. But I'm actually just going to let the rest of this play out. So one thing I was worried about is that I'd just be buying the exact same game, and there's been some minor things, but in terms of gameplay, they added a assist mode where you get more health, and it helps you with jumps, which they do not have in the 3D All-Stars version. So there's already a division between the two versions, but I think you'd have to decide on a personal level. Let's say that you already had the 3D All-Stars version. If you wanted to fork over an additional, I don't know, let's say $35 if you wanted the physical version, or $40 if you wanted the digital version of Mario Galaxy on the Switch. Technically, it's $70 because you pay for both of them, but that's neither here or there. I'm breaking it apart because you're technically paying for two games. But it would be $40 if you bought the digital version by itself. Now for some gameplay comparison. We have the 40th anniversary version on the left and the 3D All-Stars on the right. So you can see just a slightly subtle difference between the two of them if you're looking close enough. The 40th anniversary does actually look better. Marginally better, but it still looks better. And the gameplay that you see right now with the 40th is when I was still using my third-party controller or gamepad, whatever you want to call it. So you can see the little marker that gathers all the little bits. It's just all over the place. It was driving me nuts, and it's one of the reasons why I switched to the Joy-Cons. because I haven't paid for an official Switch 2 controller. Maybe sometime in the future, but to be honest, I like my Call FX controller more. But that's neither here or there. Now, in terms of controls, it pretty much plays the same. I don't have any footage of it, but I did play a little bit more of the 40th anniversary with the Joy-Cons after I captured all my footage. And I'm confident to say that there's almost no real distinct difference between the two versions in terms of controls. At least as far as using the Joy-Cons are concerned. There might be more differences later on in the game, but to be honest, I'm not about to play through both to figure out. I'll probably just stick with the 40th anniversary and call it good. So again, it's going to just be up to you whether or not you feel like the value of the game is worth it. So was it worth paying $70 to get both versions of it? Well, I liked physical, so for me, yes, I thought it was worth it. But if I had the digital version of 3D All Stars, that might be a different story. So that's going to be up to you if you have the digital version of 3D All Stars. If you want to fork over the $70 for the combined pack or the $40 individually for either one, or just the $40 for Mario Galaxy 2. That's completely up to you. Now, I was going to actually do Mario Galaxy 2, but honestly, that would just be highly repetitive in this case because you could apply the exact same thing to Mario Galaxy 2 on the Wii versus Mario Galaxy on the Switch. It's going to be a better version of the game, so I'm not going to just bore you by repeating it. It's better. It really is. If you haven't ever played Mario Galaxy 2, I would get this. Now, this kind of raises a question for me, at least in my mind, about the Legend of Zelda series. You're like, what does this have to do with Mario? Well, the Legend of Zelda's 40th anniversary is coming up, and I'm thinking they'll do what they did with Mario this year. So, like, sometime next year, you will see a direct that'll feature the Legend of Zelda, and they'll have maybe a couple of releases of games that come to the Switch, maybe the Switch 2, either remakes, remasters, some form of the game in some shape or form of some of the games. I don't know which ones. I'm guessing most people would hope for the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. But they'll have releases during the year, and they'll sort of do that to help build up hype to the movie that comes out the next year in 2027, if I were to guess. I'm hoping they do more for The Legend of Zelda. But anyways, that's just me rambling. If you made it this far, thanks for watching.